Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Sailor's Disgrace. Each of these episodes will be split up into different time periods of my life, joining the Coast Guard, going through boot camp, going to my first assignment on the ship, on the cutter, my assault, the aftermath with my life, the discovery, the pain, the suffering, the relief. Everything's going to come out episodically. It's going to be short episodes, between 5 and 10 minutes is my goal, so it's more digestible for the listener. And I'm also going to intersperse episodes that have interviews with different people, experts hopefully, people interested in this topic, other survivors, or just friends and allies of people that have gone through this, as well as informational episodes on resources and things that can help our listeners. So the way I'd like to start each episode is with a quote. There's different quotes I have for different things. So my first episode is about me joining the service and how I joined and the human element of that. So this quote comes from Fred Rogers, that's Mr. Rogers, and this quote has always struck with me. Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can help us know that we are not alone. This kind of covers everything that this podcast will be about. It's about sharing. It's about opening up about those dark, scary things in our lives, to be able to trust others with that information and to be able to guard it too. So going forward with this, I joined the Coast Guard in 2003, 20 years ago, which is hard to believe considering everything I've been through, not just with the assault, but just my life in general. I can't believe I'm at this point. But back in 2003, I was 18 years old. I was a year out of high school. I actually graduated high school when I was 17. And I lived with my sister and her partner in Asheville, North Carolina, with two of her partner's kids. And I was working at a bookstore. I was young. I was 18, like I said, and didn't have any real goals or ambitions. I was just floating through, but I loved my sister, and I was living with her. I was very excited to be out of school. Didn't have any real goals or aspirations beyond that. I did not want to go to college. I was always a good student, but I did not have the drive. I did not have the vision. I did not have any real support to go to college, definitely not financially. I grew up fairly poor for the most part. My father was in the Coast Guard, but my parents divorced when I was 5, and for the most part, I lived with my mother and my 3 siblings. So it was 4 of us and a single mom. We definitely did not have money for college, and I did not have any scholarships. I didn't even try. So I landed in North Carolina with my sister, and I was very happy to be with her, but things were difficult. She was going through a rough time in her relationship, which ultimately ended. I was living with both of them and 2 young kids. It was not a comfortable situation to be in. At the same time, this is early 2003, we were at war. We started the war with Iraq, and I remember watching on TV the bombing of Iraq from the Navy vessels, and I just had this sense of I needed to find purpose in my life. I needed to go out there and do something good with my life. I wanted to be a part of something bigger and something to help others. And quite honestly, I was thinking of 2 different branches to serve in. I was actually thinking of the Marines and the Coast Guard. I ultimately went with the Coast Guard because that's what I knew. My father, like I said, was retired, a Coastie. He retired in 1997 as a chief quartermaster. And then my older brother, Justin, was also in the Coast Guard and still is in the Coast Guard. And I kind of went with what I knew. I knew more about the Coast Guard than any other branch, and I thought ultimately, too, it spoke to me because I knew it was a humanitarian service. I knew that we help people. The Coast Guard is there to provide life-saving services. It's out there to do humanitarian aid. We also defend and protect, and ever since Iraq, especially, we've been in the Persian Gulf, but ultimately our job is to help people. And that really resonated with me and my being. So I joined the Coast Guard, and it was a way for me to escape in a way. It was a way for me to get out and try something new, and I was so nervous but also excited at the same time to be 18 and to have this potential career and also just the potential to get out of where I was. And I wanted to go to California so bad. I was actually born in San Francisco. My father was stationed in Alameda, and I never went back until I joined the Coast Guard. But all those years, I would look at the pictures of the Bay Area, and I just longed to be there. And I'd see it on TV and movies, and it always seemed so magical. And I wanted to be in California so bad. I actually talked to my recruiter to see if I could get to California, and they actually gave me guaranteed California out of boot camp. Not what unit or what job, but all I knew is that I was going to go to California, and I was sold. I was sold. That's all I needed to join the Coast Guard, and it was a way for me to potentially find a job or a career I could like, and also to use the GI Bill if I wanted to in a few years, and to find friends and relationships. And I was just open to the world at that point. Everything was open to me, and I was very excited about the opportunities. I was so excited to join at that point when I finally talked to my recruiter. And funny side note, my recruiter, and this is completely random, was a fellow shipmate of my father's. He went to boot camp with my father in 1977. Completely coincidental. They had no idea until we started talking that they went to boot camp together. So it's a small world, and the Coast Guard is a small world, which also appealed to me. As far as the Army or Navy and hundreds of thousands of people, the Coast Guard only had about 40,000 people. And that's, everybody knows everybody. We all know each other. So that sense of community also spoke to me. And so by July of 2003, I was off. I said goodbye to my family, my sister, which was hard, and I took off. I got on the plane and flew to Cape May, New Jersey, and started my journey in the Coast Guard. So that's it for this very first episode. I will be posting the second episode where I talk about going to boot camp and going to my unit in San Diego and not feeling, and some of the issues there with the relationships I started to form with my shipmates. But for this episode, I just wanted to go over the basics of why I joined the Coast Guard and what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was passionate about. And I was really just trying to find myself. I was searching for something that I did not know. I did not even think I could get to. And eventually, I made my way to where I am now because of that. So I am grateful. So again, thank you for listening. Please post any comments or any questions that you may have. I'll gladly answer them. And share this as much as possible. Again, this is just forming. We're going to get there. I promise you we're going to get to a lot of good content here, but I just want to start by giving the background, my basic background. So once again, thank you very much. Stay tuned for another episode. It's going to be here shortly.
Woke up this morning with a fog around my head. Oh, I looked for you beside me, but I was all alone in my bed. Hey, I've been down since I was born. Think I'll have